Unless someone tells me differently, we are following our normal practices. And so it doesn't matter your status. We have mugshots ready for you.
By next Friday, Donald Trump and 18 others will all have to surrender at the Rice Street Jail in Atlanta. And if they are treated the same way as every other defendant, as the sheriff suggested right there, they will have to take mugshots and get fingerprinted and fill out forms, including a medical questionnaire. Now, in his previous 3 criminal indictments, the former president was processed and arraigned in a matter of hours. There were no mugshots and there were no cameras present. But at the Rice Street Jail, the booking process can take up to 12 hours because of overcrowding, and defendants have to be booked and arraigned separately. That arraignment could happen on camera sometime during the week of September 5th. Mr. Trump could appear virtually or waive it, but he will have to show up to the jail regardless, sometime before Friday, August 25th. That is the deadline for him to surrender and be booked and processed on all 13 counts in the Fulton County criminal indictment. Joining me now is someone who knows Mr. Trump very well, Mary Trump. She is Donald Trump's niece, and she is the author of the Backstory serial Substack and host of the Mary Trump Show podcast. Ms. Trump, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so eager to get your thoughts on the man, your uncle, you know well. The first is, I kind of wonder, as we talk about the booking process, the potential of mugshots and fingerprints and kind of marching through jail like every other defendant, what you think of this idea that Chris Christie floated a couple of weeks ago. He says he knows Trump really well, and as no matter how he's been bragging and going on about not being afraid, he goes to bed every night thinking about the sound of that jail cell door closing behind him. Do you think that deep down inside this is weighing on him in the middle of the night, for example?
Yeah. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I don't think that it's as conscious as Chris Christie seems to think, because there are so many reasons for Donald not to believe this is happening, first of all. And secondly, probably the worst thing he can feel is humiliation. So he uses a lot of weapons at his disposal, a lot of defense mechanisms to displace that humiliation, to make it unconscious, so he doesn't have to feel. So we've been hearing from a lot of people in his inner circle that he's furious all the time. It's much better to feel angry than it is to feel humiliated or afraid. But Donald is, and always has been, a frightened little boy deep down. And I actually believe that when he goes through this process next week or in the coming days, if he does, as he should, as all of them should, because everybody else in his position has to, it might actually start breaking through that there's nothing he can do to get out of this. We saw this in New York. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't brash. He submitted in a way that was meek. And we're going to see the same thing, but on steroids next week, I believe.
Yeah, I think that you're making such, keen observations, quite obviously, because you know the man well. But I think what you say about the manner in which he has sort of denied this reality is through anger and vitriol. And you can kind of deny the concept of incarceration, but when he is walked and potentially mugshotted and fingerprinted and put through a jail system that is not at all similar to the booking process that he's gone through thus far, I wonder if that in and of itself is a form of humiliation. Just the man who has to descend from the gilded palace in which he resides to sort of the basest levels of the judicial system and treated like a common criminal. That very process to me seems like a schismatic moment in Donald Trump's life.
Yeah, and quite honestly, just the fact that he has to show up on somebody else's schedule and he does not have the option of saying, you know what, I don't want to do this. That in itself is humiliating enough. We are seeing a man who, for his entire life, has never had the experience of being held accountable for anything, who has never had to submit to anybody, who has always had the system rigged in his favor, at this point now where for the fourth time, not only is he going, I'm sorry, for the fourth time, he's going to have to show up and stand in front of a judge or go through the processing, but this time he's actually going to have to go through all of it, just like any common criminal defendant.
You mentioned the concept of accountability and how it's not something that Donald Trump is particularly familiar with. I wonder what you think of the peril he keeps putting himself in, legally speaking, by lashing out at prosecutors, targeting judges, speaking badly about the very people who will determine his fate, and being effectively not threatened, but potentially forced to pay a price for that in the form of a trial date that's moved up, or a fine, or even the possibility of being incarcerated while he awaits trial. Do you think there is anything at this point that can force Donald Trump to stop the vitriol, to stop the tweets, to stop the rants? Or is he just going to push this as far as he possibly can?
The short answer is no. He is not going to be able to stop himself. And there's been a really interesting shift over the last few months or a couple of years. The way in which he is presenting himself in social media, the kind of the attacking nature, the aggressiveness, that used to be strategy for him. You know, he used to throw temper tantrums strategically to get his way. It's not strategy anymore. He is literally doing what he's done in other contexts, which is pushing the envelope to see how much he can get away with, which obviously until this time has been everything. But the unconscious fear, terror, and especially fear of humiliation is so strong that he cannot course correct and realize that doing what he's always done is this time not going to get him what he wants. In fact, quite the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that anger has become the dominant emotion to effectively make up for all the other things that he doesn't want to feel is a dangerous proposition indeed. Mary Trump, it's invaluable to have your perspective on this and this individual at this time. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.